The Zelda Notes introduced in the Switch 2 version of Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom were a very interesting way to get lore to the fans of those games. My only problem is I don't think they would be a great addition to the next mainline 3D Zelda games. The first reason I have for this is that they are attached to the Nintendo Switch Online app, and if you're someone who's streaming, it's not really very easy to get that information, while you're streaming. I was very lucky in that I had a secondary phone that already had the app attached to it. So I just, used that phone and got the recording off of it, but it still wasn't easy because, adjusting the volume for my voice, the phone, it was kind of a nightmare. The second reason is they were released after the games. So, like, unless you were someone who was really, really interested in the lore, you weren't necessarily going to pay the extra $20 for each game. Or maybe it was just, $10 for each. I don't remember, but you weren't necessarily going to go back to those games and play them just to hear about these lore bits. Like, you were more likely to just go through and find something like me on YouTube that was going through and, putting them up. So, I do have a solution to this, though. And I think it would be a solution that a lot of people would actually find interesting. And that's the companions. Let's bring back the companions. Now, there's two reasons I have for this. Is it will be in-game, and some of the Zelda notes were like hints to what was going on around the place you were at. Like the one for the Colosseums and the depths, like Koga told you, they were a trap. And, he knew exactly where the lines were. And you activated the note right before you would have activated the trap. So, it would have been really helpful for someone who maybe is new to the game, maybe even new to the series, to be like, oh, hey, I'm getting a prompt. Hit, A button, and, someone would have told you, it's like, hey, this looks like a trap. It looks like, if I step over here, it'll activate the trap. And then that way, I don't have a whole lot of health. My gear isn't the greatest. I don't know what kind of trap this is, so I'm going to go prepare and then come back to it. Also, it would allow you to bring more direct attention to areas of interest. Like, I remember that there were several, like, shrines in Breath of the Wild where they were kind of off the beaten path, and the only help you had to find them was the Sheikah Slate shrine sensor, which honestly sometimes wasn't the greatest, especially if it was something, that was hidden behind rocks. So if, you had a companion, say you walked within 50 yards of where something of interest is, they just kind of veer off and go towards it. And, they'll either wait for you to come and investigate with them, or, like, say you get with it, like, you just keep going and you get another 50 yards away from it. They just, pop up right next to you. Like, okay, I guess we'll go back and look at that later. And maybe even it'll put, like, a little prompt on the map for you that's like, hey, this is a place of interest that you've located. Like they did with the Divine Beasts and the regional events. Like, they gave you, hey, these are the points of interest. The game just automatically put them there. So my first idea in terms of, this whole companions idea is you need to make it someone like Midna. Midna is one of the most beloved companions in the Legend of Zelda series because she has a personality. And you can, like, see her facial expressions in the different cutscenes. And you know what she's thinking even before she talks, based on her facial expressions, things like that. Navi was okay, but she was really only there to kind of help you and, give you information on the enemies. She wasn't so much really a companion like Midna was. And even in Majora's Mask, when they had Tattle, like, she had personality. She, like, gave you her thoughts, her opinions on different things going on. But even then, like, there was a disconnect because she was just a floating orb. There was no way to know, what she was thinking or feeling other than, the context of her words. Um, so also, the other idea that I have for this is if they go through, like, what they did with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, where you have someone helping you either get into the temple or go through the temples, like, they've set it up to where you can have multiple companions helping you. And if they just want to stick to, like, one companion at a time helping you, say you go into Death Mountain region, the Goron chieftain takes over the role as your companion that is currently with you, and he'll take you to different spots than what your normal companion would. Maybe your normal companion is staying behind to, like, help the Gorons, solve a problem that they're dealing with, and the chieftain is going to go with you because he's like, I think the source of this problem is in this temple. I'm going to go with you to help you deal with this because it's my job. So, and then that way they can kind of do what they did with Zelda, Rauru, and Koga in Tears of the Kingdom, in that the Goron Chieftain is going to take you to different areas of interest that are, specific to the Gorons, while if you go back through with your normal companion, she may, either give different history notes on the same area, or take you to completely different areas that are, more significant to, say, the Highlands of Death Mountain. So again, they have set it up to where they can go through and, give you multiple different viewpoints and multiple different lore aspects of the game from the different races' perspectives. So I think the Zelda Notes were a wonderful lore addition. Anyone who loves Zelda for the lore aspect of it absolutely loved Zelda Notes. But I think they should have implemented it sooner. And if they set it up in the future to where you have NPCs and companions bringing them to your attention and leading you to those areas, I think it would allow for way more interesting interactions with NPCs, and you'd also get, way more opportunities for more different lore, because, there are some people who love the Gorons but don't really necessarily care about the Rito. So being able to, maybe take the Goron companion with you to the different areas, it would allow you to go through and, get different lore information. Like, how do the Gorons feel about the way that the Rito handle different things? How do the Rito feel about the different ways the Gorons handle things? And I think it would lead to some really, really interesting interactions. Which, speaking of the Zelda Notes, if you want, I have a playlist of the Zelda Notes that you can view here. And if you'd like, please subscribe. And I hope to see you all later. I love you. Have a great day. Be safe. Bye.